The golden hour light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the private studio like liquid amber, painting everything it touched with warmth that Seoul's winter air refused to give. Naya Cole adjusted her camera lens for the third time, her fingers trembling slightly. Not from cold, but from something she couldn't quite name. Weight. Expectation. The feeling that this moment mattered more than any contract she'd ever signed. The studio stretched before her like a stage waiting for its lead actor. Minimalist furniture. White walls. The Han River glittering 40 stories below. Everything was designed to make the subject the only thing that mattered. And everyone in the room, the stylists, the assistants, the silent men in black suits standing near the exits, knew exactly who that subject would be. When Jin Tae-Kyung entered, the air itself changed. There was no announcement, no fanfare, just the quiet click of expensive shoes on marble, and suddenly every person in the room stood straighter, breathed shallower, existed smaller. Naya had photographed celebrities, politicians, even a former president. None of them carried power like this man did. He wore black. Simple, tailored, perfect. His face was beautiful in that dangerous way. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that revealed nothing, lips that looked like they'd forgotten how to smile years ago. He moved like water, fluid and inevitable, his gaze sweeping the room once before landing on her. Naya didn't bow, didn't stammer. She walked straight toward him, hand extended, meeting those obsidian eyes with her own steady brown ones. "Mr. Jin, I'm Naya Cole. We're going to create something memorable today." His handshake was firm, controlled, lasting exactly 1 second longer than professional. "That depends entirely on your vision, Miss Cole." His English was flawless, his accent barely there. His hand was warm against hers. She led him to the mark she'd prepared, explaining the concept, the lighting, the mood she wanted to capture. He listened without interrupting, his attention so focused it felt physical. When she gestured for him to adjust his stance, he obeyed. When she asked him to turn his face toward the light, he did. But when she stepped closer to fix his collar, the fabric sitting wrong against his neck, everything shifted. Her fingers brushed his skin. Just barely, just enough. He went absolutely still, not tense, not uncomfortable, just aware. Naya's breath caught. She could feel the heat of him, smell something expensive and cedar dark, see the slight pulse at his throat. Her hands steadied the collar, smoothing the fabric with professional precision, even as her heart hammered unprofessionally against her ribs. "Better?" she murmured, starting to step back. "Wait." His voice was quiet, deep, the kind of sound that made you lean closer to hear it properly. She looked up. His eyes had darkened, pupils wide, something dangerous swimming in their depths. "Open it wider," he said softly, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want more of that confidence." The words landed between them like a challenge, like a promise, like the beginning of something neither of them could stop. Naya's lips curved into a smile that matched the fire suddenly burning in her chest. She stepped back deliberately, raised her camera, and met his intensity through the lens. "You'll get exactly what the camera needs, Mr. Jin," she said. "Nothing less." The shutter clicked. The game began. And as she moved around him, directing, capturing, commanding the space like she owned it, she felt his eyes following her. Not just watching, hunting. I didn't know then that this moment would change everything. She would think later. If you're watching from somewhere that believes in second chances, hit that like button, because this story is about to get dangerous. 3 weeks earlier, Naya had stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport with 2 overstuffed suitcases, her precious camera bag, and a heart full of desperate hope wrapped in practiced confidence. Seoul glittered beneath the plane's descent like a circuit board coming to life, all neon and ambition and possibility. She'd left Atlanta at 19 with nothing but talent and hunger. Made it to New York by 23 through pure stubbornness and sleepless nights. Built a portfolio that made galleries take notice and brands reach out. She'd photographed fashion weeks, album covers, editorial spreads that won awards she couldn't afford to attend the ceremonies for. But New York had chewed her up. Bad contracts, stolen credit, men who promised opportunity and delivered harassment. She'd survived, but barely. When the Seoul offer came through, a luxury brand agency seeking fresh international perspective, Naya saw it for what it was, escape or extinction. She chose escape. Her apartment in Itaewon was small, barely bigger than her New York studio, but it had huge windows that let in gorgeous light. She'd unpacked her camera equipment first: bodies, lenses, lights, reflectors, arranging them with the care some people reserve for religious artifacts. Photography wasn't just her job. It was her truth-telling, her therapy, her proof that she existed and mattered. The night before her first major client meeting, she'd called her best friend Zara back in Atlanta, pacing the tiny apartment with her phone pressed to her ear. "Girl, what if I can't do this?" The words tumbled out raw and scared. "What if I came all the way across the world just to fail in a different language?" Zara's laugh was warm and familiar. "Naya Cole, you've been terrifying people with your talent since high school. You walked into that racist-ass gallery in Manhattan and made them give you a show. You think Seoul's gonna break you?" "Seoul might not," Naya admitted, staring at the city lights beyond her window. "But I might break myself trying to prove I belong here." "Then prove it, sis. That's what you do." But what Zara didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Naya's biggest client wasn't just any investor. Jin Tae-Kyung's name appeared in business magazines and society pages, yes, but it also appeared in whispered conversations, in warnings given by other expats, in the careful way people avoided discussing exactly how a 34-year-old man controlled so much of Seoul's infrastructure. Shipping, fashion, technology, real estate. His companies touched everything. But the rumors suggested his influence reached deeper, into places with no corporate logos, no press releases, no paper trails. The kind of power that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. Naya had researched him obsessively. Every interview, rare. Every photo, carefully controlled. Every business move, brilliant and ruthless. What she found was a man who'd inherited an empire at 25 when his father died mysteriously, who'd tripled that empire's worth in less than a decade, who never smiled in photographs, who'd never been linked romantically to anyone publicly. A man who controlled everything around him with surgical precision. What she didn't know, couldn't know, was that Jin Tae-Kyung had researched her too. From his penthouse office overlooking downtown Seoul, Tae-Kyung watched the security footage from the studio's preliminary setup day. On screen, Naya moved through the space with unconscious grace, testing angles, adjusting lights, completely absorbed in her craft. She'd argued with his coordinator about the backdrop, politely but firmly, and won. She'd rearranged furniture without asking permission. She'd treated his carefully constructed environment like clay to be molded. Most people approached him with fear masked as respect. This woman approached his space with creative vision that didn't give a damn about his reputation. It intrigued him, deeply. "Background check?" his head of security Min Jae asked. "Already done." Tae-Kyung leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Naya Cole, 27, Atlanta-born, self-made, no family money, no connections, no debts beyond student loans she's paying aggressively. Her work is exceptional. Her reputation is clean. So why do you look concerned? Because she looked at the world like it owed her nothing and she'd take everything anyway. Because she'd survived in industries designed to break women like her. Because when she laughed in that footage, a real, full laugh at something his coordinator said, it sounded like summer, and Tae-Kyung couldn't remember the last time he'd associated any sound with warmth. "I'm not concerned," he lied. "Just interested." Min Jae raised an eyebrow. In 15 years of working together, Tae-Kyung had never been interested in anything that wasn't a strategic acquisition. "Make sure she has everything she needs for the shoot," Tae-Kyung said, turning back to his screens. "And Min Jae? No interference. I want to see what she does when no one's controlling her." Naya checked her camera settings, her face serious and focused and absolutely beautiful in its concentration. Tae-Kyung watched until the footage ended, then watched it again, trying to identify exactly what about this woman made his carefully ordered world feel suddenly, dangerously unstable. He would find out soon enough. They both would. The rooftop of the Shilla Hotel blazed with light and luxury. Seoul's elite had gathered for the launch of Tae-Kyung's new fashion line, a collaboration between his investment group and an emerging Korean designer. Naya moved through the crowd like a shadow, capturing moments people didn't know they were giving her. A businessman's fake laugh, a socialite's envious glance, the way money and power danced together under string lights. She'd been hired to document the event, but what she really documented was truth. Her lens didn't lie. Through her viewfinder, she spotted Tae-Kyung surrounded by executives, his face carved from marble, nodding at something someone said. But his eyes, those dark, dangerous eyes, kept finding her across the crowd. Every time she looked up, he was already looking. "You must be a famous photographer." Naya lowered her camera to find a woman standing before her, beautiful in that deliberate way that required teams of people. Designer dress, perfect makeup, jewelry that cost more than Naya's entire year's rent. Her smile was warm. Her eyes were ice. "I'm Park So-hyun. I arranged your contract with the agency." She said it was like conferring a gift, like Naya should be grateful. "Thank you for the opportunity," Naya replied carefully, noting how So-hyun's gaze kept sliding toward Tae-Kyung. "He's magnificent, isn't he?" So-hyun's voice dropped to something intimate, possessive. "We've known each other since childhood. Our families have been close for generations. Some bonds are simply destiny." The warning was clear. The claim was staked. Before Naya could respond, So-hyun glided away, her attention already back on Tae-Kyung, positioning herself beside him like she belonged there. Like she'd always belonged there. Naya took 3 more shots and decided she needed air. The terrace was quieter, cooler, the city sprawling below like a living organism of light. She leaned against the railing, breathing in the night, trying to settle the strange tightness in her chest that had nothing to do with the altitude. "Escaping already?" She turned. Tae-Kyung stood in the doorway, backlit by the party, his expression unreadable as always. But he was alone. For the first time all night, completely alone. "Just taking a break from performing," Naya said. "Parties like this are theater. Everyone plays a role." "And what role are you playing?" He moved closer, hands in his pockets, casual in a way that somehow made him more intimidating. The observer, the recorder, the one who shows people truths they don't want to see. Dangerous work. He stopped beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Why did you really leave America, Naya?" The use of her first name sent electricity down her spine. "Why does anyone leave? I was looking for something I couldn't find there." "And have you found it here?" She looked at him fully then, studying the sharp lines of his face, the intensity behind his controlled exterior, the loneliness she recognized because she carried the same kind. "I don't know yet." "Why did you really agree to these photo shoots?" "Men like you don't need publicity." His lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. "Men like me? Powerful, private, the kind who control things from the shadows." She held his gaze. "I've heard the rumors, Mr. Jin, about what you really are." Instead of anger or denial, something like respect flickered in his eyes. "And yet you're here, on a dark terrace, alone with a dangerous man." "Maybe I'm dangerous too." The air between them thickened. Charged. He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away, and took her hand. His thumb traced her knuckles, her palm, the delicate bones of her wrist. The touch was gentle, but deliberate, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with sex and everything to do with intention. "You see things others miss," he said quietly, his voice low enough that she had to lean closer to hear. "That's dangerous here, Naya. In my world, people who see too much don't last long." "Is that a threat?" "A warning." His eyes held hers. "I'm not a good man. I've done things that would make you leave if you knew. But when I look at you, Tae-Kyung see." They sprang apart. So-hyun stood in the doorway, her smile bright and brittle. "Everyone's asking for you. The designer wants photos." "Of course." His mask slid back into place instantly. But before he turned, his fingers brushed Naya's one last time, a whisper of touch that promised continuation. As he walked back into the light and noise with So-hyun's hand possessive on his arm, Naya's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd photographed 1,000 people, read 1,000 stories in faces and body language. What she'd just seen in Jin Tae-Kyung's eyes wasn't a story. It was a confession, a hunger, a crack in armor he'd spent years building. And she knew with absolute certainty that she'd just stepped into something far more complicated than a photography contract. Something that felt like falling and flying at the same time, something that might destroy them both. The next 3 weeks blurred together in a symphony of stolen moments and growing addiction. Naya photographed Tae-Kyung 7 more times, each shooting an excuse to be near each other, to talk, to learn the languages of silence and glances. She discovered he preferred his coffee black and scalding, took calls in 3 languages, and had a scar on his left hand he never explained. He discovered she hummed while working, had strong opinions about everything, and looked at the world like it was a puzzle she was determined to solve. Late nights became their sanctuary. After shoots, when staff had gone home, they'd sit in his office or the empty studio, reviewing photos that were really just excuses to sit close. He taught her Korean phrases, actually laughing, when she butchered the pronunciation. Again, Dangsin and aramdapsamnida. Dangsin, ugh, why are there so many syllables? It means you are beautiful. His eyes held hers. Some things are worth the effort to say correctly. Her breath caught. Teach me something else. Josie Mansio. His voice dropped. Be careful. One night, reviewing photos on his penthouse rooftop, his finger traced her collarbone while pointing to a technical detail on the screen. The touch lingered, burned. Naya leaned into it unconsciously, her body making decisions her mind was still debating. Naya, his voice was rough. We should stop. Why? Because if I start, I won't stop. He pulled back, creating space between them that felt like violence. You deserve better than my world. Better than me. What if I don't want better? What if I just want... You don't know what you're asking for. But his eyes said he wanted to give it to her anyway. Wanted to stop restraining himself. Wanted to close the distance between them and let the fire building between them finally burn. The tension grew unbearable. Every conversation felt like foreplay. Every accidental touch felt... Then the sabotage started. The first incident was subtle. A major client, a cosmetics brand that had been excited about Naya's work, suddenly canceled their contract. No explanation, just a curt email citing creative differences. Naya stared at her laptop, confused. The client had loved her preliminary concepts. The second incident was blatant. She arrived at a scheduled shoot to find her equipment damaged, lenses scratched, memory cards corrupted, light stands broken, thousands of dollars in destruction that looked almost deliberate. Who has access to your storage? Tae-Kyung's voice was cold steel when she called him, trying not to cry. Just me and the agency coordinator. Tae-Kyung, I can't afford to replace. Consider it handled. I'll have new equipment delivered within the hour. I can't accept, Naya. Something dangerous edged into his tone. Let me handle this. She heard it then, the barely restrained fury, the protectiveness, the promise of retribution. 2 days later, a third client withdrew, citing concerns about professionalism. The accusation stung because it was baseless. Naya had done nothing wrong. In his office, Tae-Kyung made calls in rapid Korean, his face expressionless but his knuckles white where they gripped his phone. Min-jae appeared, whispered updates, and disappeared to follow orders. Someone's targeting you, Tae-Kyung said finally, pouring them both whiskey. Someone who wants you to fail, to leave. Why would anyone? Then it clicked. The warnings, the possessiveness, the arranged contract. So-hyun, I'm investigating. He handed her a glass, his fingers covering hers. But Naya, if this is because of me, because someone thinks you're, what? Important to you. She met his eyes. Are we going to keep pretending there's nothing between us? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Tae-Kyung set down his glass and cupped her face with both hands, his touch reverent and desperate. You're the first real thing I've felt in years. The first person who looks at me and sees me. Not power, not fear, just me. Then stop pushing me away. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection, Naya whispered. I need honesty. He kissed her forehead, her temple, her cheek, everywhere except her lips, like even now he was holding back. Then here's honesty. My world will try to destroy you, and I'll burn it all down before I let that happen. The envelope arrived at Tae-Kyung's office at dawn, delivered by anonymous courier. Inside, printed emails, bank statements, text message screenshots, all showing a pattern of calculated seduction. Naya researching his net worth. Naya discussing securing the Jin connection with unnamed contacts. Naya's bank account showing deposits that aligned suspiciously with their time together. It looked damning. It looked real. Min-jae stood across the desk, jaw tight. Sir, I verified the metadata. These communications appear authentic. 2 of Tae-Kyung's senior advisors, both men, So-hyun's family had recommended years ago, nodded gravely. She's a foreigner with no ties here. The timing is suspect. You should distance yourself before this becomes public. Tae-Kyung stared at the evidence, something cold and familiar settling in his chest. This was why he never let anyone close. Why trust was a luxury men like him couldn't afford. He'd let his guard down and now, "Bring her here," he said quietly. Now. Naya arrived 30 minutes later, her camera bag over her shoulder, expecting another shoot. Instead, she found Tae-Kyung behind his desk, surrounded by stone-faced men, his expression colder than she'd ever seen. "Sit down." Not her name, not warmth, just command. She sat, confusion turning to dread as he slid the envelope across the desk. "I need to know the truth, Naya. Did you research my finances? Have you been reporting our interactions to anyone? Are these your words?" She opened the envelope, her hands shaking as she read. With each page, her confusion transformed into something sharper, hotter, fury. "You think I..." Her voice cracked. "You actually believe I'm using you? I'm asking for the truth." "The truth?" She stood abruptly, digging through her camera bag with violent movements. "Here's the truth." She slammed her actual bank statements on his desk, showing modest savings, regular deposits from legitimate contracts, student loan payments that are most of her income. Then her real portfolio, complete with rejection letters, awards, years of work that had nothing to do with him. Her actual emails with the agency, her flight receipts, her apartment lease. "I didn't come to Seoul for you," she said, voice shaking with rage and hurt. "I came to survive, to build something that was mine. But I stayed," her voice broke. "I stayed because of you." Tae-Kyung's mask cracked. "Naya?" "I know what you are," she continued, words tumbling out like confessions. "I know the rumors aren't just rumors. I know your money comes from places that don't appear on tax forms. I know you control things you shouldn't be able to control, and I chose to stay anyway because I thought..." Tears burned her eyes. "I thought you saw me, the real me, not what someone fabricated." She pulled out her laptop, her own investigation files. "I've been tracking the sabotage. The canceled contracts? They all went through the same agency coordinator, someone So-hyun appointed. The damaged equipment? Security footage shows her assistant accessing the storage room. The emails you're holding? Look at the metadata timestamps. Half of them are dated before we even met." The room went silent. Tae-Kyung stood slowly, moving around the desk. His advisor shifted uncomfortably. Min-jae's hand moved to his weapon instinctively as his boss's expression transformed into something deadly. "Get out," Tae-Kyung said quietly to his advisors. "All of you, now." They fled. When the door closed, he turned to Naya, and she saw it, the agony beneath the ice. "I'm sorry. You doubted me," she whispered. "After everything, you doubted me. I've been betrayed by everyone I've ever trusted. My father's business partners, my mother's family, people I considered friends." He moved closer, cautious, like approaching something wild. "Trusting you terrifies me more than anything I've faced, because losing you would destroy me in ways bullets and betrayal never could. Then don't lose me." Her voice was raw. "Fight for me. With me. Stop protecting yourself and let me in." "I don't know how." "Learn." The space between them disappeared. Tae-Kyung's hands framed her face, thumbs wiping away tears she didn't realize had fallen. "I've never trusted anyone the way I want to trust you. I've never needed anyone. But Naya, I need you to breathe." "Then breathe," she whispered. He kissed her like a man drowning, like she was air and salvation and destruction all at once. No more restraint, no more walls, just desperate, honest need. His hands tangled in her hair, hers clutched his shirt, and the kiss deepened into something that spoke of hunger too long denied. When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, breathing ragged, he whispered, "We find who did this. Together. And then we burn their world down." "Together," she agreed. Outside the office, Min-jae received a text and smiled grimly. He'd always known those advisors were compromised. And he'd been waiting for his boss to finally trust someone worthy. The real war was just beginning. The photos hit social media at 3 a.m., carefully timed for maximum damage. Naya laughing with a handsome black man outside a restaurant, Naya hugging him on a street corner, Naya with her head on his shoulder in what looked like an intimate moment. The captions wrote themselves. Jin Tae-Kyung's foreign photographer exposed, secret relationship revealed. By sunrise, it had spread everywhere. News sites, gossip blogs, business forums discussing Tae-Kyung's poor judgment. The man in the photos was identified as American, Speculation ran wild about Naya's real motives for being in Seoul. Naya woke to 247 missed calls and a message from Zara. Girl, what the hell is happening? Why are you on Korean TMZ? The man in the photos was Marcus, her cousin, who'd surprised her with a 3-day visit she'd been too consumed with Tae-Kyung drama to properly enjoy. Every innocent moment twisted into evidence of deception. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Cole, this is the Hanseong Group. We're terminating your contract effective immediately due to moral character concerns. Another call, another termination, then another. By noon, her professional life had evaporated. Brands that had courted her now released statements reevaluating their commitment to foreign talent. The racism was thinly veiled, the xenophobia explicit. She was suddenly everything wrong with outsiders coming to Seoul. Manipulative, untrustworthy, morally corrupt. In Tae-Kyung's emergency meeting, his board members, half of them compromised by Sohyun's careful, years-long infiltration, presented their case with rehearsed concern. The optics are devastating. Your association with this woman damages our reputation. Our international partners are asking questions. For the good of the company, you need to distance yourself publicly. Now, Tae-Kyung sat in silence, his mind calculating moves and countermoves. He could weather this scandal. His power ran too deep to be toppled by gossip. But Naya couldn't. She was vulnerable, exposed, being destroyed in real time by a machine Sohyun had spent weeks building. If he stayed close, the attacks would intensify. Sohyun would ensure Naya never worked again, maybe worse. But if he stepped back publicly, Sohyun might ease off, considering it a victory. Draft a statement, he said finally, each word cutting his throat. The company has no official relationship with Miss Cole beyond completed contractual work. Min-jae's head snapped up. Sir, do it. The statement went live within an hour. Professional, distant, a clear separation. When Naya read it on her phone, sitting alone in her apartment, surrounded by hate comments and canceled contracts, something inside her shattered. Not just broke, shattered. He'd chosen himself, his empire, his reputation. After everything, after the confessions, the kiss, the promises, he'd let her burn alone. She cried for an hour, then stopped. Crying changed nothing. With mechanical precision, she began packing her camera equipment. Each lens wrapped carefully, each body cushioned, years of work reduced to foam and cardboard. Her hands shook but didn't stop. Her laptop pinged. Email from an international agency. Your work speaks for itself. We have opportunities in Paris, London, New York. Interested? An escape. A new start. Exactly what she'd done before. She typed 3 letters. Yes. Across the city, Tae-Kyung stood at his penthouse window, watching the building where Naya lived. He'd had Min-jae station security nearby. Invisible protection she didn't know about. His phone showed her apartment camera feed, illegally accessed, but he was past caring about legality. He watched her pack. I watched her cry. Watched her spine straighten with that devastating resilience he'd fallen in love with. Every instinct screamed to go to her. Every strategic bone in his body said this was the play. Let Sohyun think she'd won. Investigate quietly, then strike when the enemy was complacent. But watching Naya hurt because of him was agony beyond anything he'd experienced. Sir, Min-jae said softly, she's booking a flight. Tae-Kyung's hand pressed against the cold glass. I know. Across town, in a luxury restaurant's private room, Sohyun raised her champagne glass to carefully chosen allies. To foreign distractions knowing their place, she said, her smile sharp and satisfied, and to men finally seeing sense. They drank to her victory, none of them noticing Min-jae's informant recording every word from the next room. The war wasn't over, but Sohyun thought it was. That would be her fatal mistake. Naya didn't book the flight. Instead, she sat cross-legged on her apartment floor, surrounded by laptops, tablets, notebooks, every device she owned glowing in the dark. If she was going down, she was going down with answers. She started with the photos. Reverse image searches, metadata analysis, geolocation data. The images had been taken by a professional photographer, one whose portfolio included several society events organized by Park So-hyun's family foundation. Following that thread, Naya hacked into public financial records, technically legal, technically not, tracing payments from shell companies to media outlets, gossip bloggers, even former colleagues who'd suddenly turned cold. Every transaction led back to accounts connected to So-hyun's network. But the smoking gun came from an unlikely source, a disgruntled coordinator at the agency who'd been pushed out by Sohyun's people. She sent Naya encrypted files containing emails, payment receipts, instructions for the sabotage campaigns. Everything. She's been planning this for months, Naya whispered to her empty apartment, reading through the evidence, since before I even arrived. Meanwhile, across the city, Minjae placed a folder on Tae-Kyung's desk with the weight of confession. Sir, you need to see this. The advisors who showed you that fabricated evidence, they're on Sohyun's family payroll. I have been for 3 years. I just confirmed it. Tae-Kyung's blood turned to ice. The public statement you released? She orchestrated everything to force that response. She wanted you to push Mrs. Cole away. She's been systematically destroying anyone who gets close to you for years. Business partners, potential allies, anyone she views as competition for influence over you and your empire. The folder contains surveillance photos, financial records, and recorded conversations. Years of manipulation laid bare. Where is Naya now? Tae-Kyung's voice was deadly calm. Her apartment. Sir, she hasn't booked the flight to Paris. She's investigating, on her own. Something fierce and painful swelled in Tae-Kyung's chest. Of course she was. Of course this brilliant, stubborn, magnificent woman refused to run, even when he'd failed her. Even when she had every reason to hate him. He grabbed his jacket. Get the car. Sir, the charity gala is in 2 days. Sohyun is being honored as Philanthropist of the Year. If we're going to move against her, we're not moving against her. Tae-Kyung's smile was sharp and cold. We're going to destroy her. But first, I need to apologize to someone who deserves so much better than me. Naya was analyzing her 15th financial document when someone knocked. She ignored it. Knocked again, ignored it again. Naya, please. I know you're in there. That voice. The one that had whispered promises and confessions. The one that had cut her loose with corporate precision. She yanked the door open, fury and hurt warring on her face. Come to release another statement? Maybe tell me to leave the country? Tae-Kyung looked wrecked, his perfect facade cracked, exhaustion and regret written in every line of his body. I was wrong. I thought distancing myself would protect you. I thought if Sohyun believed she'd won, she'd stop attacking you. I thought... His voice broke. I thought I was being strategic, but I was being a coward. You left me alone in the fire. I know. He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that she could feel his warmth. You don't need protection, Naya. You need a partner, an equal, someone who fights with you, not for you. I forgot that. I forgot that you're the strongest person I've ever met. Damn right I am, but her voice shook. Minjae found the evidence. Sohyun orchestrated everything. The fabricated emails, the photos, the sabotage. She's been systematically removing anyone she perceives as a threat to her influence over me for years. He pulled out his phone, showing her his files. But you found it too, didn't you? Naya's eyes widened, recognizing her own investigation mirrored in his evidence. The charity gala. She's being honored in 2 days. In front of every person who matters in Seoul. His eyes met hers, dark and determined. We can expose her. Together. If you'll still have me. If you can forgive me for failing you when you needed me most. She should make him suffer. Make him work for forgiveness. But seeing him here, vulnerable and honest and finally treating her like the partner she'd always been, her anger transformed into something sharper. Purpose. Show me everything you have, she said, stepping back to let him in. They worked through the night, laptops side by side, building their case. Cross-referencing evidence, verifying sources, creating an undeniable narrative of manipulation and betrayal. Somewhere around 3 a.m., their hands brushed reaching for the same document. Neither pulled away. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for doubting you, for leaving you, for being so afraid of losing you that I pushed you away. I'm sorry too, she replied, for not trusting that you'd come back. He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs stroking her cheeks. Fight with me, not without me. That's the deal from now on. Partners. Equals. No more protection. Just us. Us, she agreed. They kissed softly, sealing the promise. Not desperate like before, but certain. A beginning, not an ending. She's going to regret ever underestimating us, Naya whispered against his lips. Tae-Kyung's smile was dangerous and beautiful. She already does. She just doesn't know it yet. The Sheila Grand Ballroom glittered with Seoul's elite. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, conversations conducted in the language of wealth and influence. At the center of it all, Park So-hyun accepted her Philanthropist of the Year award with practiced grace, her smile radiant as cameras flashed. "I'm honored to serve our community," she said into the microphone. "True leadership means protecting what matters, removing obstacles that threaten our values, and ensuring the right people maintain influence in our society." The subtext was clear to those who knew. The audience applauded. Then the ballroom doors opened. Naya entered in a crimson dress that hugged every curve, her natural hair styled in a crown of coils, her head high and shoulders back. She looked like royalty, like power, like someone who absolutely belonged. Beside her, Jin Tae-Kyung wore black, his hand resting possessively at the small of her back. The room went silent. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones appeared. Whispers erupted. They walked through the crowd like it was theirs, acknowledging no one, heading straight for their reserved table in the front. Tae-Kyung pulled out Naya's chair. She sat with the grace of someone who'd never doubted her place. So-hyun's smile froze on her face. "As I was saying," she continued, voice slightly strained, "we must be vigilant against those who would deceive us, who would use connection and intimacy for personal gain." The massive screens flanking the stage flickered. So-hyun's voice trailed off as her own face appeared on the screens. But not the carefully curated public image. This was security footage of her meeting with the photographer who'd staged Naya's photos. Audio began to play. "I need her destroyed. I don't care what it costs. Make it look like she's betraying him." The ballroom erupted. So-hyun's face was drained of color. The screens changed. Email chains showing payments to journalists, text messages orchestrating the equipment sabotage, financial records proving years of manipulation. Recorded conversations where So-hyun laughed about removing obstacles from Tae-Kyung's life, former business partners who disappeared, colleagues who'd lost positions, all for getting too close to him. "Turn it off!" So-hyun shrieked, her composure shattered. "This is illegal. This is—" "The truth," Tae-Kyung said quietly, standing. His voice didn't rise, but it carried. It always carried. "You tried to destroy someone precious to me. That was your mistake." "Tae-Kyung, you don't understand. I did this for us, for our families. She's nobody, foreign, unsuitable. I was protecting you. I never asked for your protection." His eyes were cold as winter. "You assumed ownership you never had, manipulated my companies, my staff, my life. For what? Control you were never entitled to?" The evidence kept rolling. Guest after guest turned away from So-hyun. Phone calls being made, associations being severed in real time. Her carefully constructed power base crumbled like sand. Her father stood, face purple with rage and shame. "We're leaving, now." "But father, now." So-hyun looked around desperately, seeking allies, finding none. Everyone who'd smiled at her an hour ago now looked through her like she was glass. Her social death happened in absolute silence, the cruelest death in Seoul's elite circles. As security escorted her out, she locked eyes with Naya one last time. No words needed. The victor and the vanquished both knew exactly what had happened. When the doors closed behind her, the ballroom remained frozen. Tae-Kyung took Naya's hand, raising it to his lips. "Shall we go? I thought you'd never ask." They walked out together through the stunned crowd, neither looking back. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Seoul's light spread before them like promises. "That was satisfying," Naya admitted. "That was justice," Tae-Kyung corrected. "There's a difference. Teach me." His smile was genuine, warm, the expression of a man who'd finally stopped hiding. "I'll spend a lifetime teaching you everything I know, if you'll let me." "Deal." They drove into the night, leaving the wreckage of So-hyun's empire behind them, ready to build something honest and real and entirely their own. 6 weeks later, Naya stood in Tae-Kyung's penthouse living room, photography books scattered across the coffee table, her laptop open to emails from agencies in London, Paris, New York, and Tokyo. The international offers had flooded in after the gala. Everyone wanted the photographer who'd brought down Seoul's Ice Queen. But it was the local offers that made her smile. Korean brands reaching out directly. Apologies from companies that had dropped her. Respect, finally, on her own terms. Tae-Kyung emerged from his office, loosening his tie. Even after weeks of this, of coming home to her presence in his space, her laughter filling rooms that had been silent for years, the sight of her still stopped his breath. "Still deciding?" he asked. nodding at the laptop. Already decided. She closed it with a soft click. I'm staying, in Seoul, but I'm building my own agency. No more working through intermediaries who can be manipulated. My own client list, my own terms. Pride flickered in his eyes. You don't need my permission. I know, but I wanted your opinion. My opinion is that you're brilliant and terrifying, and anyone who works with you is lucky. He crossed to her, pulling her against him. My opinion is also that I'm selfishly grateful you're staying. Selfish looks good on you, she teased, running her hands up his chest. The great Jin Tae-Kyung, admitting he wants something just because he wants it, not because it's strategic. You've ruined me for strategy. His lips found her temple, her cheek, the sensitive spot below her ear that made her shiver. All I want anymore is you. Happy. Here. With me. They moved to the balcony, the city spreading below them like a living tapestry of light. Seoul had tested them, tried to break them, and failed. Now it felt like theirs, a city of second chances and hard-won victories. Naya lifted her camera, a habit now, capturing the way the glass reflected their silhouettes against the cityscape. Two figures merged into one, distinct but connected, strong separately but stronger together. I never thought I'd find this, Tae-Kyung said quietly, his arms wrapped around her from behind. Someone who sees all of me, the business, the darkness, the things I've done, and stays anyway. You opened something in me I thought was closed forever. Naya turned in his arms, her hands framing his face the way he so often did with hers. Then let's keep it open. Together. No more walls, no more protection. Just honest, messy, real love. Just us, he agreed. When he kissed her, it was different from all the times before. Not desperate or restrained or explosive. This kiss was a promise, a foundation, the beginning of something built to last. The city lights blurred around them. The night air carried the sounds of Seoul living and breathing. Somewhere below, people were falling in love, taking chances, starting over, just like they had. Naya's camera, forgotten on the balcony railing, captured one final shot on timer. Two people kissing against an impossible skyline, holding each other like they'd never let go. Because they wouldn't. Not for Seoul's judgment, not for society's expectations, not for anything. They'd fought for this, bled for it, chose it every single day, and in a city of millions, they'd found exactly what they'd been searching for without knowing they were searching. Each other. Tae-Kyung pulled back just enough to whisper against her lips, "Stay with me. Not just tonight. Always." Always, Naya promised, and kissed him again, sealing the future they'd build together. One honest moment, one brave choice, one profound love at a time. The city lights continued to glitter. The camera captured their joy, and two hearts, once guarded and scarred and lonely, beat in perfect, fearless synchrony.